there is no purpose, no meaning in my saying anything. People constantly say to me that they want peace, they want bliss, they want a soul. Yes, you want everything, but you do not get anything in the world just by wanting. Desire alone is absolutely impotent, there is no strength in it. Desire alone is not enough, determination and effort are also needed. It is all right that you desire something, but how much effort do you make for that desire? How many steps do you take towards that desire? What do you do for that desire? According to my criterion, the only proof of your desire is the effort you make to satisfy it, otherwise there is no proof that you have a desire. When a person desires something, he makes some effort to get it. That effort is the proof that the person desired something. You say that you desire, but you have no intention of making any effort to get it. You have no determination for it. To close this talk, I will repeat one more point. I told you about the three centers. The center of intellect is the brain, the center of feelings is the heart. What is the navel the center of? The navel is the center of willpower. The more activated the navel is, the more intense the will force becomes, and the more you can attain the determination, the power, the life energy for doing something. Or think of it in reverse, the more determined you are, the more you gather energy for doing, the more your navel center will develop. Both of these are interdependent, related to each other. The more you think, the more your intellect will develop. The more you love, the more your heart will develop. The more determined you are, the more the center of your inner energy, that central lotus of the navel, will develop. A small story and then I will finish my talk. A blind fakir was begging in a town and came to a mosque. He spread out his hands in front of the door of the mosque and asked, "Can I get something to eat? I am hungry." The Inner Journey 40 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep. The people passing by said, "Idiot. This is not a house where you can get something to eat. This is a mosque, this is a temple. Nobody lives here. It is a mosque that you are begging at, you will not get anything here. Go somewhere else." The fakir laughed. He said, "If I do not get anything from the house of God, then from what other house can I get anything? This is the last house I have come to, and by mistake this final house is a temple. How can I move away from here? If I move, where will I go? There is no other house after this, so now I will stay here and I will move only when I get something." The people started laughing at him. They said, "Idiot. Nobody lives here. Who will give anything to you?" He replied, "That is not the question. If I have to go away from the house of God with empty hands, then where will my hands be filled? Then my hands will not be filled anywhere. Now that I have stumbled upon this door, I will leave only when my hands are full." The fakir remained there. And for 1 year his hands remained spread out in the same way, and his being went on longing in the same way. The people of the town started saying he was mad. They said to him, "You are absolutely a fool. Where do you think you are sitting with your hands spread out? There is nothing to be gained here." But the fakir was one of a kind, someone unique. He remained sitting and sitting and sitting. After 1 year had passed by, the people of the town saw that perhaps the fakir had attained something. The aura of his face had changed. There was a kind of breeze of peace floating around him, a kind of light appeared around him, a fragrance. The man started dancing. Where before there were tears in his eyes, now there was a smile on his face. He had been almost dead, but in this 1 year his life blossomed again and he started dancing. People asked, "Have you gained something?" He said, "It would have been impossible not to have gained something, because I had decided that either I would gain something or I would not stay. I have attained more than I desired. I desired only food for my body and I have gained food for my soul also. I wanted only to fulfill the hunger of my body, but now the hunger of my soul has also been fulfilled. They started asking, how did you attain this? How did you gain this? He said, I did nothing, but I put all my willpower behind my thirst. I said to myself that if there is thirst, then along with it there should be total determination also. My total determination was behind my thirst, and now my thirst is quenched. I reached the place where that water is available, and after drinking it my thirst remains no longer. The meaning of determination is to have the courage, the inner strength and willpower to do something about whatever it is you want, to act according to whatever you think is right, and to follow whichever path seems right for you. If you do not have this determination, then nothing can happen through my or anybody else's words. If something could happen through my words, then the inner journey. 41 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep. Things would be very easy. There have been many people in the world who have said very good things. If things could happen just through their words, by now everything would have happened to the whole world. But neither Mahavira, nor Buddha, nor Christ, nor Krishna, nor Mohammed can do anything. Nobody can do anything unless you yourself are ready to do it. The Ganges goes on flowing, the oceans are full, but you have no container in your hands, and you are shouting that you want water. The Ganges says, there is water, but where is your container? You say, don't talk about the container. You are the Ganges, there is so much water in you, give some to me. The doors of the Ganges are not closed, the doors of the Ganges are open, but you need a container. Where there is no container of determination, no fulfillment or contentment on the spiritual journey is ever attained. You have listened to my talk so silently. The 3 meetings of our first day come to an end now, and from tomorrow we will start discussing the 2 other points. Now, after this meeting, we will sit for the night meditation for about 10 minutes. We should understand 2 or 3 things regarding the night meditation, then we will sit for it. Would it be possible to lie down? Is there space enough for the meditators to lie down? First understand, then we will do the night meditation. The morning meditation is to be done sitting. Life arises, wakes up in the morning, so it is helpful to meditate sitting up. The night meditation has to be done lying in bed, before you go to sleep. After the meditation, just go to sleep silently. This is the last thing in the day. The morning meditation is the first thing that happens after waking up, the night meditation is the last thing that happens before going to sleep. If one enters a state of meditation properly before sleeping, one's whole sleep is transformed. One's whole sleep can become a meditation, because sleep has certain rules. The first rule is that the last thought at night becomes the central thought in your sleep, and it will be your first thought on waking up in the morning. If you have gone to sleep at night in anger, then throughout the night your mind and your dreams will be filled with anger. And when you wake up in the morning, you will find that your first feeling and your first thought will be of anger. Whatever we take to sleep with us at night stays with us the whole night. That is why I say that if you do need to carry something in your sleep, then it is better to carry meditation with you, so that the whole sleep revolves around meditation, around its peace. Slowly, within a few days, you will find that the dreams disappear, that your sleep becomes a deep river. And when you wake up in the morning from a deep sleep, deep from this night meditation, your first thoughts will be of peace, of bliss, of love. So the morning journey has to be started with the morning meditation, and the night journey has to be started with the night meditation. The night meditation has to be done while lying down in bed. We will do the experiment here lying down. The Inner Journey. 42 Osho. Chapter 3. The journey towards the navel, right diet, labor, sleep. After you have lain down, you have to do 3 things. The first thing is that the body has to be totally relaxed, as if there is no life in it. So loose, so relaxed, no life in the body. And for 3 minutes one's mind has to feel that the body is becoming relaxed, more relaxed, more relaxed. Whatever the mind feels, the body will follow it. The body is just a servant, a follower. The body expresses whatever we feel with action. If you feel anger, the body picks up a stone to throw. If you feel love, the body hugs somebody. Whatever you want to be, whatever you want to do, when the thought arises in the mind, the body turns it into action. Every day we see the miracle of the body transforming a thought into action whenever it arises. We never think of becoming relaxed, otherwise the body would do that too. The body can relax so much that one does not even know if it exists or not, but this only happens after doing this experiment for a while. For 3 minutes you have to go on feeling relaxed. Right now, I will give you suggestions so that you come to experience the feeling. When I give you the suggestion that the body is becoming relaxed, then you will feel that the body is becoming more relaxed, more relaxed. The body will become relaxed. As the body becomes relaxed, the breath will become calm. Calmness does not mean that breathing will stop, but it will become slow, tranquil, and deep. Then for 3 minutes you have to feel that your breathing is becoming calmer and calmer, the breathing is becoming relaxed. Then slowly the mind also becomes relaxed and tranquil. When the body becomes relaxed, the breath becomes calm. When the breath becomes calm, the mind automatically becomes silent. All these three things are related. So first we will feel that the body is relaxed, this will make the breathing calm. Then we will feel that the breathing is relaxed, this will make the mind silent. And then I will give you a third suggestion, that now your mind is becoming silent and empty. In this way, after following each of these three suggestions for a short time, I will say that now the mind has become completely silent. Then for 10 minutes you will lie in silence in the same way that you were sitting in silence this morning. You will hear the cry of a bird, you will hear the sound of a dog, and many other sounds. Just keep listening silently. It is just as if there is an empty room and a sound comes in, resounds and goes. You should not think about why you are hearing these sounds, neither should you think about why the dog is barking, because you have nothing to do with the dog. There is no reason for you to think about why this dog is barking, nor why this stupid dog is disturbing you now that you are meditating. No, you have nothing to do with it either. The dog does not know at all that you are meditating. He has no idea about it, he is absolutely innocent, he is just doing his job. It is nothing to do with you. He is just barking, so you have to let him bark. It is not a disturbance to you unless you make it a disturbance. It becomes a disturbance only when you resist. When you want the dog to stop barking, the trouble begins there. The dog is barking, it should bark. We are meditating, we should meditate. There is no conflict between these two, there is no opposition. You are silent, the dog sound will come, linger, and go, it is not a disturbance to you. The Inner Journey 43 Osho. Chapter 3. The Journey Towards the Navel, Right Diet, Labor, Sleep. Once I was staying in a small village in a rest house. A political leader was also staying with me. That night I don't know what happened, but all the dogs from the village gathered near the rest house and started barking. The leader became very disturbed. He got up, came into my room and asked, "Have you gone to sleep? I am in a great difficulty. I have driven those dogs away 2 times, but they return again." I said, "If you drive anybody away they will always return. It is a mistake to try to drive somebody away, because whoever you drive away thinks that he is needed in some way. He thinks that he has some importance, that is why he is being driven away. And dogs are just poor dogs. They must think that they are needed in some way, that they are important to you, so they came back. And the other thing is that the dogs have no idea that a political leader is staying here, that they are barking for you. They are not human beings. If human beings hear that a political leader is here, they will gather around him. Up to now dogs have not become intelligent enough to gather around when a political leader comes. The dogs come here every day. Do not have this unnecessary idea in your mind that they have come here because of your importance. They would definitely not know about it. And as far as the problem of your sleeping is concerned, the dogs are not keeping you awake, you are keeping yourself awake. You are unnecessarily thinking that the dogs should not bark. What right do you have? The dogs have the right to bark and you have the right to sleep. There is no contradiction between them, these things can happen simultaneously. There is no conflict or clash between them. Let the dogs go on barking and you go on sleeping. Neither the dogs can say that you shouldn't sleep because your sleep creates a disturbance in their barking, nor can you say that they disturb you. And I told him, just accept that the dogs are barking and listen silently. Drop the resistance. Accept their barking. And the moment you accept it, the barking of dogs is also transformed into a musical rhythm. I don't know when he went to sleep, but when he woke up in the morning, he said to me, I don't have any idea what happened, but I am really amazed. When there was nothing else to do, I had to accept. At first your idea made no sense to me, my ideas do not immediately make sense to anybody. It did not make sense to him either. But when I felt so helpless, I realized there was no other way. Either I ruin my sleep or I accept what you say. There were only two alternatives. Then I thought that as I had given so much attention to the dogs, now I should give attention to your suggestion and see what happens. So I lay down silently and listened and accepted the barking. After that I have no idea when I fell asleep, and I have no idea how long the dogs kept on barking or when they became silent. I really had a good night's sleep. So do not resist. Listen silently to whatever is all around. This listening silently is a very miraculous phenomenon. This non-resistance, this non-opposition towards life is the clue to going into meditation. So first we will become relaxed, and then we will listen silently in a state of non-resistance. Lights will be turned off so that you do not feel that others are present. It is easy to forget the dogs, it is far more difficult to forget the people around you. The Inner Journey 44 Osho. Chapter 4, The Ways to Encounter the Mind. February 4, 1968. Am in a Joel meditation camp. Note, this is the final edit of the Hindi translation of Enter Yatra, later published as part of Sadhana Path. This is for reference use only, pending publication. My beloved ones, the mind of man, his brain, has become a sick wound. It is no longer a healthy center, it has turned into an unhealthy ulcer. That is why all our attention is concentrated on it. Perhaps you may not have thought about the fact that when a part of the body becomes sick, all one's attention moves towards it. One only becomes aware of the leg if there is pain in the leg. If there is no pain, then one is not aware of the leg at all. If there is a wound in the hand, then one becomes aware of the hand. If there is no wound, then one does not know about the hand at all. Our brain has certainly become sick in one way or the other, because for 24 hours we are aware only of it and nothing else. The healthier a body is, the less it will be felt. One feels only that part which has become unhealthy. The only part of the body which we feel now is the brain. Our consciousness only moves around it, only knows it, only recognizes it. A sick wound has appeared there. Without getting free of this wound, without becoming free of this very tense and very restless state of mind, no person can move towards his center of life. So today we will discuss the state of the brain and how to change it. The first thing is that we should clearly understand the state of the brain. If you sit alone for 10 minutes and sincerely write down on a piece of paper whatever thoughts are going through your 45. Chapter 4. The Ways to Encounter the Mind. You will be unwilling to show that paper to even your dearest friend, because you will find thoughts which are so mad that neither yourself nor anyone else could have expected them from you. You will find such irrelevant, futile, and contradictory thoughts that you will think you have gone mad. If you sincerely write down whatever comes into your mind for 10 minutes, you will be very surprised at what is happening there. You will wonder if you are sane or crazy. We never look into our mind even for 10 minutes to see what is going on there, or maybe it is that we do not look into it because deep down we already know what is happening there. Perhaps we are afraid. That is why people are afraid of being alone and are looking for company 24 hours of the day, wanting to meet friends or go to a club or something. And if the person cannot find anybody, then he will read a newspaper or listen to the radio. Nobody wants to be alone because the moment you are alone you start finding out about your real state. When the other is present, we are involved in relating to him and we are not aware about ourselves. The search for the other is nothing but the search for an opportunity to escape from oneself. The basic reason that we become interested in other people is that we are afraid of ourselves, and we know very well that if we know ourselves completely, we will find that we are absolutely mad. To escape from this state, man searches for company, searches for a companion, searches for a friend, searches for society, searches for a crowd. Man is afraid of aloneness. He becomes afraid of aloneness because in aloneness he will find a reflection of his real state, he will come across the reflection of his own face. And it will be very frightening, very scary. So, from getting up in the morning till going to sleep at night, he uses all kinds of methods to escape from himself so that he doesn't have to face himself. He is afraid that he may see himself. Man has invented thousands of ways to escape from himself. And the worse the condition of man's mind has become, the more we have made new inventions to escape from ourselves. If we look at the last 50 years, we will find that man has created more diversions to escape from himself than ever before in history. The movie houses, the radio, the television, are all ways to escape from oneself. Man is becoming so restless. We are searching for entertainment. We are making many arrangements to forget about ourselves for a while because our inner situation is becoming worse. All over the world, along with the development of civilization, the use of drugs has increased. Recently some new drugs have been discovered which are becoming very popular in Europe and in America. There are drugs like L.S.D, mescaline, marijuana. In all the cultured cities of Europe and America, among all educated people, the effort to discover new drugs is at its peak. The search to discover reliable means for man to forget himself continues, otherwise man will be in great difficulty. What is the reason behind all this? Why do we want to forget ourselves? Why are we so eager for self-forgetfulness? And don't think that only the people who are going to movies are trying to forget themselves. The people who are going to temples are also going for the same reason. There is no difference. The temple is an old way of forgetting oneself, the movie is a new way. If a man is sitting and chanting Rama Rama, don't think that he is doing anything else than trying to forget himself in the chanting, just as somebody else is trying to forget himself by listening to a movie song. There is no difference between these two people. The Inner Journey 46 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. The effort to get entangled in anything outside oneself, whether it is Rama, or a movie, or music, the effort to become entangled in anything is deep down nothing but an effort to escape from oneself. We are all engaged in escaping from the self in one way or the other. This shows that our condition inside is getting worse and we are losing the courage even to look at it. We are very afraid to look in that direction. We are acting like ostriches. Seeing the enemy, an ostrich hides its face in the sand because it is dangerous to look at the enemy. Because the enemy is not visible, the ostrich's logic says, that which is not visible is not there. I am safe. But this logic is wrong. Ostriches can be forgiven but man cannot. By not being visible, something does not cease to exist. If a thing is visible, something can be done about it, but if it is invisible there is no possibility of doing anything. We want to forget the state which is inside, we don't want to see it. It may be possible to convince our mind that something which is not visible is not there, but that does not mean that it has gone away. There is no relation between not being visible and being non-existent. If something had been visible, then perhaps we could have been able to change it, but as it is not visible, change is not possible. It will go on growing inside like a wound, like an ulcer which we have hidden and do not want to look at. The brain has become a wound. Someday, if a machine is invented by which we could look at what is happening inside each person, then everybody would probably commit suicide immediately. Nobody would allow anybody else to see what is going on inside him. Someday or other it will become possible. Right now we can be grateful that there are no windows in our heads through which we can look into each other's brains and see what is going on there. What people are hiding inside and what they say on the outside are very different. What you see outside on their faces is completely different from what is going on inside them. It is possible that outside they are talking about love, but inside they are full of hate. They may be saying to somebody, "Good morning. I am pleased to see you. I am happy that I met you this morning," but inside they are saying, "Why do I have to see the face of this stupid person first thing in the morning?" If there were windows to look into people's heads, we would be in a great difficulty. Life would become really difficult to live. We might be talking to someone in a friendly manner but thinking inside, "When is this man going to die?" There is one thing on the surface and something else underneath, and we don't dare to look inwards, to look inside and see. A mother and her daughter lived together and both of them walked in their sleep. One night at about 3 o'clock the mother got up and went into the garden behind the house. After a while her daughter also got up in her sleep and walked into the garden. As soon as the old woman saw her daughter, she shouted, "Bitch! You have taken away my youth. From the time you were born, I started growing old. You are my enemy. If you had not been born, I would still be young." And when the girl saw her mother, she shouted, "You wicked woman! Because of you my life has become difficult and a bondage. You have always been a rock in the flow of my life. You are a heavy chain on my life." At that moment the cock crowed and they both woke up. Seeing the girl, the old woman said, "Dear, why did you get up so early? You may catch cold. Come, let's go inside." The Inner Journey 47 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. Immediately the girl touched the feet of her old mother. She had a habit of touching the feet of her mother every morning. She said, "Mother, you got up so early. Your health is not good. You should not get up so early. Come and rest." You can see the difference between what they said in their sleep and when they were awake. Whatever a man says in his sleep is more authentic than what he says when he is awake, because it is more from the inside. What you see of yourself in your dreams is more of a reality than what you see in the marketplace and in the crowd. The face in the crowd is made up and artificial. Deep down within yourself you are a totally different person. You may manage to hide things by sticking some good thoughts on the surface, but inside the fire of thoughts is burning. On the surface you may seem absolutely silent and healthy, but inside everything is unhealthy and disturbed. On the surface you seem to be smiling, but it can be possible that the smile is just covering a pile of tears. In fact, it is a probability that you have been practicing your smiles just to hide the tears within. This is usually what people do. Somebody once asked Nietzsche, "You are always laughing. You are so joyous. Do you really feel this way?" Nietzsche said, "Now that you have asked, I will tell you the reality. I am laughing so that I don't start crying instead. Before my crying can start, I suppress it by laughing. I stop it inside myself. My laughter must convince others that I am happy. And I laugh only because I am so sad that I feel a relief by laughing. Sometimes I can console myself." Nobody has seen Buddha laughing, nobody has seen Mahavira laughing, nobody has seen Christ laughing. There must be a reason. Perhaps there are no tears inside, so there is no need to laugh to hide them. Perhaps inside no sorrow remains to hide by smiling. Whatever was disturbed inside has disappeared, so now there is no need to stick the flowers of laughter on the outside. One whose body stinks needs to sprinkle perfume on it. One whose body is ugly needs to make an effort to look beautiful. One who is sad within has to learn to laugh, and one who is filled with tears inside has to keep smiling on the outside. One who is full of thorns within must stick flowers on himself outside. Man is absolutely not as he appears to be, he is the total opposite. He is one thing on the inside and something else on the outside. And it is all right if others are deceived by what we have stuck on the outside, but the problem is that we ourselves get deceived by it. If only others were deceived by the outer appearance, it would be all right. It is not very surprising because people usually only see the outside. But we ourselves get deceived because we think we really are the image that other people see. We look at ourselves through the eyes of the other, we never see ourselves directly as we are, as we authentically are. The image formed in other people's eyes deceives us and we become afraid to look within. We want to see the image people have of us, not ourselves. What are people saying? We become very interested in knowing what people say about us. There is nothing else behind this curiosity to know. We think we can recognize ourselves through the image formed in others' eyes. This is very surprising. Even to know ourselves we have to look into another person's eyes. The Inner Journey 48 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. Man is afraid that people might say something bad about him. He feels happy if people say something good about him because his knowledge of himself depends on their opinion. He doesn't have immediate knowledge of himself, he does not have any direct experience of knowing himself. This experience can happen, but it doesn't because we try to escape from it. The first thing in encountering the mind is not to bother about what others say or how one appears to others, rather, one has to have a direct encounter with what one essentially is. In one's aloneness one has to open one's mind totally and see what is there. It is an act of courage. It is an act of tremendous courage to decide to enter into the hell hidden within oneself. It is an act of great courage to see oneself in one's nudity. Great courage is needed. Once there was an emperor. Every day he used to disappear into a room built in the middle of his palace. His family, the people in his house, his friends, his ministers were all surprised about this habit. He used to always keep the key of that room on himself, and when he went into the room he would lock the door from the inside. There was only one door to the room and not a single window. During a period of 24 hours, he would stay in that room for at least 1 hour. Even his wives did not know anything about the room because he had never told anybody about it. If somebody asked, he would smile and remain silent, and he would not give the key to anybody. All the people were surprised about it, and their curiosity went on growing day by day. What does he do there? Nobody knew. He used to stay in that closed room for 1 hour, then he would come out silently and put the key in his pocket, and the next day he would do the same thing again. At last the people's curiosity reached a peak and they conspired with each other to find out what he was doing. His ministers, his wives, his sons, his daughters were part of the conspiracy. One night they made a hole in the wall so that they would be able to see what he was doing when he next went there. The next day, when the emperor went inside, everybody peeped through the hole one by one. But whoever put his eye to the hole immediately moved aside and said, "What is he doing? What is he doing?" But nobody could say what he was doing. The emperor had gone inside and taken off all his clothes. And he spread his hands towards the sky and said, "Oh, God! The person who was wearing the clothes was not me. That is not my reality, this is my reality." And he started jumping and shouting and screaming abuses and behaving like a madman. Whoever looked through the hole moved aside immediately in shock and said, "What is our emperor doing?" We used to think that perhaps he would be doing some yoga or saying some prayers. But this. What is he doing? And the emperor said to God, "The silent and peaceful-looking person who was in front of you in clothes was absolutely false. He was a cultivated man. I made him like that through my efforts. In reality I am like this. This is my reality, this is my nakedness, and this is my madness. If you accept my reality, then it is all right, because I can deceive people. But how can I deceive you? I can show people that I am not naked by wearing clothes, but you know very well that I am naked. How can I deceive you? I can show to people that I am very silent and blissful, but you know me in my very depth. How can I deceive you? In front of you I am just a madman." The Inner Journey 49 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind in front of God. We are all like a madman. In fact, leave God aside, if we look within ourselves, then even to our own eyes we will look like madmen. Our mind has become absolutely confused, but we have never paid any attention to this problem, so we have not developed any methods to deal with it. The first thing is to encounter our mind directly, but we must understand 2 or 3 points for this encounter to happen. After that we will be able to think about how the mind can be changed. The first thing for a direct encounter with the mind is that we should drop all our fears about knowing ourselves. What is the fear of knowing oneself? The fear is that perhaps we are a bad person. The fear is that we may discover that we are a bad person after having cultivated an image of being a good person. We appear to be a good person, we are saintly, we are innocent, we are authentic, we are truthful. Our fear is that we may realize that inside we are unauthentic and false. We are afraid of finding out that we are irreligious, complicated, cunning, hypocritical, unsaintly. The fear is that the image of ourselves, what we think ourselves to be, may turn out to be false. A person who is afraid in this way can never encounter the mind. It is very easy to go into the forests, it is easy to go into darkness, it is easy to sit fearlessly in front of wild animals, but it is very difficult to stand fearlessly in front of the wild man that is hidden within you. It is very arduous. It is not at all arduous to stand for years in the sun, any fool can do that. It is not difficult to stand on your head, any idiot can be taught such circus games. And it is not very difficult to lie down on thorns, the skin adjusts to the thorns very soon. If there is one thing that is really arduous, it is the courage to have an immediate knowing of however one is within, whether bad or mad, however one is. So the first thing is to drop fear and to get ready to see oneself courageously. One who does not have this courage is in trouble. We are interested in attaining the soul, we are interested in knowing existence, but we do not have the courage to have a direct and simple encounter with ourselves. The soul and existence are very far away. The first reality is our mind, our brain. The first reality is the thought center with which we are most closely related. One has to see it, know it, recognize it, first. The first thing is the effort to know one's own mind in aloneness without fear. For at least half an hour every day give your mind a chance to express itself as it is. Close yourself in a room, like the emperor, and give total freedom to your mind. Tell it, whatever you want to think, to contemplate, let it happen. Drop all the censoring of yourself that has prevented things from surfacing, drop all that. Give your mind the freedom to allow whatever arises to arise, to allow whatever appears to appear. Don't stop or suppress anything. You are ready to know what is inside. And you should also not judge what is good or bad, because the moment you judge, suppression begins. Whatever you call bad, the mind starts suppressing, and whatever you call good, the mind starts using as a cover-up. So you don't need to judge anything as either good nor bad. Whatever there is in the mind, however it is, be prepared to know it as it is. If you let your mind be totally free to think, to contemplate, to feel, you will feel very frightened and wonder if you are mad, but it is essential to know what is hidden inside in order to be free from it. Knowledge and recognition are the first steps to get free from it. We cannot conquer an enemy which we do not know or recognize. There is no way. The hidden enemy, the enemy standing behind you, is more dangerous than the enemy in front of you, the one you are acquainted with, whom you recognize. The Inner Journey 50 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. The first thing is that because of the restrictions and inhibitions that we have imposed on the mind from all sides, we don't let the mind express itself in its spontaneity. We have restricted all its spontaneity. Everything has become unnatural and false. We have covered everything in veils, we are wearing false faces, and we never allow the mind to express itself directly. So, in the beginning, at least allow it to express itself directly in front of you so that you become acquainted with all the contents which have been hidden and suppressed. A great part of the mind has been suppressed in darkness. We never take a lamp there. We live in the balcony of our own house, and inside there is darkness in all the rooms, and we don't know how many insects and spiders and snakes and scorpions are hidden there. In darkness they are bound together. And we are afraid to take a light there. We don't even want to think about the condition of our house. It is very essential for a seeker to drop this fear. To bring about a revolution in our mind and thoughts, the first thing is to drop the fear, to be ready to know oneself without fear. The second thing is to get rid of all the censorship and restrictions we have imposed on the mind. And we have imposed many restrictions on it. Our education, our moral preachings, our civilization and culture have imposed many restrictions. Don't think about this. Don't allow a thought of this kind to enter your mind. It is a bad thought. Don't allow it. When we suppress them, the bad thoughts do not get destroyed, they only go deeper into our subconscious. By suppressing it, a thought does not leave, it goes more deeply into our being, because what we are suppressing arose from within, it did not come from somewhere outside. Remember, whatever is there in your mind doesn't come from somewhere outside, it comes from within. It is as if a spring is coming out of a mountain and we close its opening. The spring will not be destroyed, it will go deeper, and it will search for other ways to come out of the mountain. Originally there would have been one spring, but now perhaps there will be 10 because the water will try to flow out by breaking into 10 springs. And if we close these 10 places, then there will be 100 springs. Everything comes from within, not from the outside. And the more we suppress it, the more ugly and perverted it becomes. Then it finds new ways to come out, new complications are created, but we go on suppressing it harder. The basis of our education from our very childhood is that if a certain thought in the mind is wrong, suppress it. That suppressed thought does not get destroyed, it enters deeper into our subconscious. And the more we go on suppressing it, the deeper it goes, and the more it gets a grip on us. Anger is wrong, so we suppress it, then a current of anger spreads right through us. Sex is wrong, greed is wrong, this is wrong, that is wrong. Whatever is wrong we suppress, and in the end we find that we have become whatsoever we suppressed. How long can you block those suppressed springs? By closing their openings. And the mind functions in certain ways. For example, whatever we want to suppress or escape from, becomes central to the mind. Whatever we want to escape from becomes an attraction and the mind starts moving towards it. Try it. If you try to escape from something or suppress something, the mind will immediately become focused on it. Milarepa was a mystic who lived in Tibet. One day a young man came to him and said, "I want to attain some powers. Please give me a mantra." The Inner Journey 51 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. Milarepa said, "We don't have any mantras. We are mystics. Mantras are for magicians, for jugglers, go to them. We don't have any mantras, why should we need powers?" But the more Milarepa refused, the more the young man thought that there must be something there, why else should he refuse? So he kept returning to Milarepa again and again. Great crowds always gather around the saints who drive people away with sticks or throw stones at them. The crowds think that the saint must have something special, otherwise he would not be driving people away. But we don't realize that attracting people through an advertisement in a newspaper or through throwing stones at them, is the same trick. The propaganda is the same. And the second way is more manipulative and cunning. When people are driven away by someone throwing stones, they don't understand that they are actually being attracted. This is a subtle way of doing it. And the people do come although they have no idea that they have been seduced. The young man thought that perhaps Milarepa was trying to hide something, so he started coming every day. In the end Milarepa got fed up, so he wrote him a mantra on a paper and said, "Take this. Tonight is the night of no moon. Read this 5 times during the night. If you read it 5 times, you will get the power you want. Then you will be able to do whatever you want to do. Now go and leave me alone." The young man grabbed the paper and turned round and ran. He did not even thank Milarepa. But he had not descended the steps of the temple when Milarepa called after him, "My friend, I forgot to tell you one thing. There is a certain condition attached to this mantra. When you read it, you should not have any thoughts in your mind about a monkey." The young man said, "Don't be worried, I have never had such a thought in my whole life. There has never been any reason to think of a monkey. I have to read this only 5 times. There is no problem." But he made a mistake. He had not even descended to the bottom of the steps when the monkeys started coming. He became very scared. He closed his eyes and there were monkeys inside. He looked outside and even where there were no monkeys, he saw some. It was already night, and every movement in the trees seemed to be a monkey. It seemed that monkeys were everywhere. By the time he got home he was very worried because up until then he had never thought about monkeys. He had never had anything to do with them. He took a bath, but while he was bathing the monkeys were with him. His whole mind was obsessed with only one thing, monkeys. Then he sat down to read the mantra. He picked up the paper, closed his eyes, and there was a crowd of monkeys inside teasing him. He became very much afraid, but still he persevered the whole night. He changed his positions, he tried to sit in this way, in that way, in Padmasana, in Siddhasana, in other different yoga postures. He prayed, he bowed, he begged, he cried out to anybody to help him get rid of these monkeys. But the monkeys were adamant. They were not ready to leave him that night. By the morning the young man was almost mad with fear and he realized that the mantra power could not be attained so easily. He saw that Milarepa had been very clever, he had put a difficulty inner journey 52 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind condition on him. Milarepa was crazy. If there was going to be a hindrance because of the monkeys, then at least he should not have mentioned them. Then perhaps the mantra power could have been attained. In the morning he went back to Milarepa crying and said, "Take your mantra back. You have made a big mistake. If monkeys were a hindrance in using this mantra, then you should not have mentioned them. I never usually think of monkeys, but the whole of last night the monkeys chased me. Now I will have to wait for my next life to attain this mantra power, because in this life this mantra and the monkeys have become united. Now it is not possible to get rid of them." The monkeys had become united with the mantra. How did they become united? His mind insisted that the monkeys should not be there, and so the monkeys came. Whenever his mind tried to get rid of the monkeys appeared. Whenever his mind tried to escape from the monkeys came. To forbid is to attract, to refuse is to invite, to prevent is to tempt. Our mind has become very sick because we don't understand this simple point. We don't want to be angry, then anger comes like a monkey. We don't want to be sexual, then sex appears like a monkey and gets a grip on our being. We don't want greed, we don't want ego, and they all come. But whatever we want, spirituality, religiousness, enlightenment, doesn't seem to come. That which we don't want, comes, and that which we try to get, never appears. All this perversion happens because of not understanding the simple point of the mind. The second thing to remember is that there is no need to insist on what should be in the mind and what shouldn't. We should be ready to watch whatever appears in our mind without making any choices and without any conditions. In this way we can begin to see what the mind is in reality. The simple fact of the contradictory nature of the mind is well understood by advertisers around the world, but religious leaders have not understood it at all. Propagandists all over the world understand this fact, but the people teaching in society have not understood it. When a movie is advertised for adults only, children go to see it with a few pays worth of false mustache sticking on their faces. The advertisers know that to attract children it is necessary to use the words "for adults only" on the advertisement. There are women's magazines for women only. Nobody reads them except men, women never read them. I inquired about it and found out that most of the buyers are men. And when I asked the agents about the magazines they sell in the market, they said, women buy women only magazines once in a while, but usually they buy magazines for men only. The advertisers understand what attracts man's mind, but neither the religious leaders nor the teachers of morality have understood it yet. They still go on teaching people stupidities like "don't be angry, fight with the anger." A person fighting with his anger and trying to escape from it will be obsessed with anger his whole life. He can never be free from it. Only a person who is interested in knowing his anger face to face and not fighting it, gets free of it. The second point is to drop all the feelings of conflict and struggle with any state of the mind. Just create a feeling of wanting to know, to understand. I should understand what my mind is. One should enter the mind with this kind of simple feeling. That is the second point. And the third point is not to make any judgment about whatever arises in the mind. Don't make any judgment about what is bad or what is good. Badness and goodness are two sides of the same. The Inner Journey 53 Osho. Chapter 4. The Ways to Encounter the Mind Coin. Wherever there is badness, there is goodness on the other side. Wherever there is goodness, there is badness on the other side. A bad person is hidden inside a good person, and a good person is hidden inside a bad person. A good person has the good side of his coin upwards and the bad side downwards. So if a good person becomes bad, then he proves to be worse than the most bad person. And if a bad person becomes good, then a good person seems pale in comparison. In a bad person the goodness has been completely hidden, only the badness shows. If he changes and becomes a good man, then other good people will look pale next to him. A very fresh and hidden force of goodness arises from within him. Valmiki or Angulimal are good examples. They were very bad people who one day became good, and they outshone all other saints with their goodness. A good person and a bad person are not different, they are two sides of the same coin. But a sage is a third kind of person. Inside him there is neither goodness nor badness. The coin disappears altogether. A sage is not a good man nor a gentleman nor a saint. A wicked man is always hidden inside a gentleman, and a gentleman is always hidden inside a bad man. A sage is absolutely a third type of phenomenon. He is beyond both good and bad, he has no relation to either one. He has entered a totally different dimension where there is no question of good and bad. A young monk lived in a village in Japan. He was very famous, and had great reputation. The whole village worshipped and respected him. Songs were sung all over the village in his honor. But one day everything changed. A young girl in the village became pregnant and gave birth to a child. When her family asked her whose child it was, she said it was the child of the young monk. How long does it take for admirers to become enemies? How long? It does not take even a short while, because inside the mind of an admirer condemnation is always hidden. The mind just waits for a chance, and the day admiration ends, condemnation begins. Those people who show respect can change in 1 minute to being disrespectful. The people who are touching a person's feet can within a moment start cutting the same person's head off. There is no difference between respect and disrespect, they are two faces of the same coin. The people of the whole village attacked the monk's hut. For a long time they had been showing respect to the monk, but now all the anger that they had suppressed came out. Now they had the chance to be disrespectful, so they all ran to the monk's hut and set it on fire and threw the tiny baby at him. The monk asked, "What is the matter?" The people shouted, "You are asking us what the matter is? This child is yours. Do we have to tell you what the matter is? Look at your burning house, look within your heart, look at this child and look at this girl. There is no need for us to tell you that this child is yours." The monk said, "Is it so? Is this child mine?" The child started crying, so he started singing a song to make the child silent, and the people left him sitting by his burnt-out hut. Then he went to beg at his usual time, in the afternoon, but who would give him food today? Today every door he stood in front of was slammed shut. Today a crowd. The Inner Journey 54 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind of children. And people started walking behind him, teasing him, throwing stones. He reached the house of the girl whose child it was. He said, "I may not get food for myself, but at least give some milk for this child. I may be at fault, but what is the fault of this poor baby?" The child was crying, the crowd was standing there, and it became unbearable for the girl. She fell at the feet of her father and said, "Forgive me, I lied when I gave the name of the monk. I wanted to save the real father of the child, so I thought of using the name of this monk. I don't even have any acquaintance with him." The father became nervous. This was a great mistake. He ran out of his house, fell at the feet of the monk and tried to take the baby from him. The monk asked, "What is the matter?" The girl's father said, "Forgive me, there has been a mistake. The child is not yours." The monk replied, "Is this so? Is the child really not mine?" Then the people of the village said to him, "You are mad. Why didn't you deny it this morning?" The monk said, "What difference would it have made? The child must belong to somebody. And you had already burnt one hut, you would have just burnt one more. You had enjoyed defaming one person, you would have enjoyed defaming one more. What difference would it make? The child must belong to someone, it could also be mine. So what is the problem? What difference does it make?" The people said, "Don't you understand that everybody condemned you, insulted you, humiliated you very much?" The monk answered, "If I had been concerned with your condemnation, I would have been concerned about your respect also. I do as I feel right, you do whatever you feel to be right. Until yesterday you felt it right to respect me, so you did. Today you felt it right not to respect me, so you didn't. But I am not concerned with either your respect or your disrespect." The people said to him, "Gentlemen, you should have realized that you would lose your good reputation." He replied, "I am neither bad nor good. I am simply myself. I have dropped this idea of good and bad. I have dropped all concern in becoming good, because the more I tried to become good, the more I found that I became bad. The more I tried to escape from badness, the more I found that goodness was disappearing. I dropped the very idea. I became absolutely indifferent. And the day I became indifferent, I found that neither goodness nor badness remained inside. Rather, something new was born which is better than goodness, and which does not even have a shadow of badness about it." A sage is a third type of person. The journey of a seeker is not one of becoming a good man, the journey of a seeker is one of becoming a sage. The Inner Journey 55 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. So my third point is, do not decide if a thought which is arising in the mind is good or bad. Don't condemn or appreciate. Don't say that this is bad or this is good. Just sit on the side of the stream of the mind, as if you are sitting on the bank of a river and indifferently watching the flow. Water is flowing, stones are flowing, leaves are flowing, wood is flowing. And you are watching, sitting silently on the bank. These are the 3 points I wanted to tell you about this morning. The first thing is tremendous fearlessness in encountering the mind, the second thing is no restrictions, no conditions on the mind, the third point is no judgments about whatever thoughts and longings arise in the mind, no feelings of good or bad. Your attitude should simply be indifferent. These 3 points are necessary to understand the perversions of the mind. Then in the afternoon and evening we will talk about what can be done to get rid of these perversions, and go further, but these 3 basic points have to be kept in mind. Now we will get ready for the morning meditation. First, 2 points to understand about the morning meditation, then we will sit for it. The morning meditation is a very direct and simple process. Actually, whatever is significant in life is very simple and direct. In life, the more futile a thing is, the more complicated and complex it is. In life, the higher a thing is, the more simple and direct it is. It is a very direct and simple process. The only thing you have to do is to sit silently and listen silently to the world of sound all around. Listening has some wonderful effects. Usually we never listen. When I am speaking here, if you think that you are listening, then you are making a great mistake. A sound falling on the ear is not the meaning of listening. If you are thinking simultaneously when I am talking, then you are not listening, because the mind can do only one thing at a time, never 2 things. Either you can listen or you can think. As long as you are thinking, for that much time listening will stop, as long as you are listening, for that much time thinking will stop. So when I say that listening is a wonderful process, what I mean is if you just listen silently, then the thinking will stop on its own, because it is one of the essential rules of the mind that it is incapable of doing 2 things at a time, absolutely incapable. A man had fallen sick. For 1 year his leg had been paralyzed. The doctors told him that there was no paralysis in his body, it was his mind imagining it. But how could the man agree? He was paralyzed. Then his house caught fire. As it burned, all the people in the house ran out, and the paralyzed person also ran. He had not got out of his bed for 1 year. As he ran, he thought, "My God! How did this happen? For 1 year, I was not even able to get up. How can I be walking now?" The man asked me about it, and I told him, mind cannot think of 2 things at the same time. The paralysis was a thought of the mind, but when the house caught on fire, the mind became totally involved with the fire, so the first thought, that my legs are paralyzed, disappeared and you ran out of the house. The mind can be intensely aware about only one thing. This morning's experiment is about listening silently to the songs of the birds and the wind, to the cacophony of all kinds of sounds around you. Listen to it very silently. Give attention to only one thing: I am listening. I am listening totally to whatever is happening. I am not doing anything else, just listening, totally listening. The Inner Journey 56 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. I am stressing listening because as you listen totally, the continuous movement of thoughts within you will become absolutely silent, because both of these things cannot happen simultaneously. So put your total effort into listening. This is a positive effort. If you try to throw out the thoughts, then the mistake which I just told you about will start happening. It is a negative effort. Thoughts cannot be thrown out by making an effort to get rid of them, but if the energy of the mind, which usually goes into thinking, starts flowing into some other stream, then thoughts automatically become weak. The doctors of the paralyzed man used to tell him, drop the idea from your mind that you are paralyzed. You are not really paralyzed. But the more the man tried to throw out the thought that he was not paralyzed, the more he would be reminded of his paralysis. If I am not paralyzed, then why am I repeating, I am not paralyzed? Every time he repeated, I am not paralyzed, he was deepening and strengthening his feeling that he was paralyzed. The mind of this man needed a diversion. There was no need for him to try to stop his thought about paralysis. If he had had the opportunity to get involved in something else, then his paralysis would have disappeared, because it was a paralysis of the mind, not of the body. It was necessary for his mind to totally move aside for the paralysis to disappear. Fortunately, his house caught on fire. It may happen that what looks like a disaster later proves to be a fortunate happening. This time it was fortunate that the man's house caught fire because his whole attention went suddenly to the fire. His mind shifted from the paralysis which it was holding onto, and the illusion suddenly disappeared. It was an illusion, no more than that. In reality, there were no chains, there was only a web of thoughts. When the man's mind became distracted, his thoughts dried up and became lifeless, because thoughts get their life from our attention. Thoughts have no life of their own. The more attention we give to a thought, the more alive it becomes. The more we remove our attention, the more dead it becomes. If attention is totally removed, then thoughts become lifeless, they die, they disappear immediately. That is why I am saying that you should give all your attention to listening. Decide absolutely that even the smallest voice of a bird should not go unheard, should not be missed. You should hear everything, whatever is happening all around, you should hear it all. Then you will suddenly find that the mind is entering into a deep silence, the thoughts are fading away. Only one thing has to be done. You have simply to relax your body. Yesterday I told you to first tense your brain, but perhaps you misunderstood. Relax your brain. Do not tense it. That is not necessary, because if you get caught up in the idea of tensing the brain, then that itself becomes a problem. So drop that idea. It was not a part of the meditation. I had told you to do that just so that you could get some idea of what a tense brain and what a relaxed brain is. There is no need to worry about this idea. Drop it. And now relax. Let the mind be relaxed. Relax all the tense tissues and nerves of your brain. It is a matter of relaxing. The question is not of learning the art of making the brain tense. You need to forget the art of keeping the brain tense. I told you that just so that you can understand the contrast between your brain being tense and being relaxed. For now, drop whatever you cannot understand. Just simply relax it. So everybody please sit keeping some distance from each other. Nobody should be touching the other. Use this space in front. Come up here or go to the back, but nobody should be touching each other. The Inner Journey 57 Osho. Chapter 4. The ways to encounter the mind. Allow the body to be totally relaxed and then close the eyes slowly. The eyes have to be closed so gently that there is no strain on the eyes. You should not close the eyes tightly, otherwise you will feel a strain. The muscles of the eyes are very much related to the brain, so let them be absolutely relaxed. Let your eyelids fall in the same way small children do. Let the eyelids fall slowly, relaxedly. Then relax all the muscles of the face and head. You have seen the face of a small child, absolutely relaxed, nothing tense. Make your face like that, absolutely loose and relaxed. Let the body also be relaxed. The moment you let everything relax, the breath will become relaxed and silent on its own. Then do only one thing, listen silently to whatever sounds are coming from all around. A crow will make a sound, a bird will make a sound, a child will speak on the road, listen to them silently. Go on listening and listening and listening, and everything will become silent inside. Listen, Listen silently for 10 minutes. Let all the attention be on listening. Be just listening, doing nothing else. Listen, the birds are singing, the winds are shaking the trees, whatever sounds may come, listen to them silently. Listen, and by, within you, a humming of silence will begin. The mind is becoming silent. Go on listening and listening. The mind is becoming silent. The mind is becoming silent. The mind is becoming silent. The mind has become silent, the mind has become absolutely silent. A deep silence is present inside. Listen to it, just listen to it. Listen, and by the mind will become silent. The mind is becoming silent, the mind is becoming silent, the mind is becoming silent. Go on listening and listening, the mind is entering an absolute silence. The Inner Journey 58 Osho. Chapter 5 Freedom from the Illusion of Knowledge February 4, 1968 OM In a Joel Meditation Camp Note, this is the final edit of the Hindi translation of Antaryatra, later published as part of Sadhana Path. This is for reference use only, pending publication. My beloved ones, the state of man's mind is like a disturbed hive of honeybees. Thoughts and thoughts and thoughts buzz round and round. Surrounded by these thoughts, man lives in anxiety, tension, and worry. To recognize and to know life, mind needs to be silent like a lake in which there are no ripples. To be acquainted with life, mind needs to be clear like a mirror on which there is no dust. We have a mind like a hive of honeybees, it is neither a mirror nor a silent lake. If we think that we will be able to know something with such a mind, that we will be able to attain something, or we will be able to become something, we are making a great mistake. It is very necessary to become free from this intense flow of thoughts. To have thoughts and thoughts and thoughts buzzing around is not a sign of health, it is a sign of a sick mind. When one's mind is totally pure and clean, when it is healthy, then thoughts disappear. Consciousness remains but thoughts disappear. When mind is sick and unhealthy, then consciousness disappears and only the crowd of thoughts remain. We live in that crowd of thoughts. From morning till evening, from evening till morning, from birth till death, we live in a crowd of thoughts. How can we get free of this crowd of thoughts? We said a few things about this in the morning and some questions have been asked in connection with what I said. I will now answer those questions. 59. Chapter 5. Freedom from the illusion of knowledge. The first thing is that to get free of thoughts is the second step. The first step is not to create a collection of thoughts in the first place. If you go on collecting thoughts on the one hand and try to become free of thoughts on the other hand, how will you manage? If we want to be free from the leaves of a tree and go on giving water to the roots of the tree, then how will we be able to get free from the leaves of the tree? While watering the roots, we don't seem to realize that there is some relation between the roots and the leaves, some deep relation. The roots and leaves seem to be separate. But the leaves are not separate from the roots, and the water which is given to the roots goes right up to the leaves. So we collect many thoughts and water their roots, and then, when thoughts make the mind very uneasy and disturbed, we want to find a way to silence them. To stop the tree from growing leaves, we have to stop giving water to its roots. We should understand how we water the roots of our thoughts. If we come to understand this, we can stop it. Then it will not be long before the leaves wither away. How do we water our thoughts? For thousands of years man has had the illusion that one can attain knowledge by accumulating other people's thoughts. This is absolutely false and wrong. No man can ever attain to knowledge by accumulating other people's thoughts. Knowledge comes from the inside and thoughts come from the outside. Knowledge is ours, and thoughts are always of the other, always borrowed. Knowledge is the throbbing of your own being, it is an exposure of that which is hidden within yourself. Thoughts are a collection of what others have said. You can collect them from the Gita or from the Quran or from the Bible or from teachers or religious leaders. Whatever we get from other people does not become our knowledge, it becomes a ways and a means to hide our ignorance. And when a man's ignorance is hidden, he can never attain knowledge. Because we have the idea that this is our knowledge, we cling to it with our whole being. We cling to our thoughts, we are not courageous enough to drop them. We support them because we think that they are our knowledge, and if we lose them we will become ignorant. But remember, howsoever much one may cling to thoughts, one does not become knowledgeable through them. When a man digs a well, he first takes out the soil and stones, and then water seeps in from the sides of the well and fills it. The water was already there, it did not need to be brought from anywhere else. Only some stones and some layers of soil had to be removed. There were some hindrances, some obstacles. Once they were removed, the water appeared. It was not necessary to bring water to the well, it was already there, just some hindrances had to be removed. Knowledge is present inside, it does not have to be got from somewhere else. Its springs are hidden inside, only the obstacles in between, the stones and the soil, have to be removed by digging, then the springs of knowledge will start appearing. But one can make a well, and one can make a pond. Making a pond is different. You do not need to look for springs of water to make a pond. The way of making a pond is completely opposite to that of making a well. To make a pond you do not need to dig out stones and soil, you have to bring them from somewhere else and make a wall of them. And when the wall has been built, the water does not come by itself, you have to take water from other people's wells and put it in the pond. On the Inner Journey 60 Osho. Chapter 5. Freedom from the illusion of knowledge. The surface of pond gives the illusion of a well. It appears to be a well. You can see water in a pond and you can see water in a well also, but the difference between a pond and a well is the same as the difference between the earth and sky. The first difference is that a pond has no water of its own. No thirst in this world is quenched by something that is not one's own. Whatever is in a pond is borrowed and soon becomes stale and rotten, because that which is borrowed is not alive, it is dead. The water standing in the pond becomes stagnant, rotten, and will soon start stinking. But a well has its own water source, the water never becomes stagnant. A well has its own flowing water. Two different processes are happening with a pond and a well. A pond is afraid that somebody will take its water away, because if its water goes, it will become empty. And a well wants someone to take its water so that more fresh water can fill it, fresh and more alive. A well calls out, "Take my water, I want to share it." And a pond calls out, "Keep away. Don't touch my water, don't take my water." A pond wants somebody who has water to bring it and pour it into it, so its wealth grows. But if somebody has a container, the well wants that person to take some of its water so that it can get rid of the water which has become old and get new water. A well wants to share, a pond wants to collect. A well has streams which are connected to the ocean. A well seems to be small, but deep inside it is connected with the infinite. And howsoever big a pond may look, it has no relation to anyone, it ends in itself and is closed. It has no streams. It has no way of connecting with the infinite. If somebody goes to the pond and talks about the ocean, the pond will laugh and say, "There is no such thing as an ocean. Everything is a pond. There is no ocean anywhere. A pond has no idea of the ocean." But if somebody praises the beauty of the well, then the well will think, "What is mine? Everything comes from the ocean. What am I? Whatever comes to me is connected far away with something else." A well cannot have any I of its own, "I am," but a pond has an ego, "I am." And the interesting thing is that a well is very big and a pond is very small. A well has its own wealth but a pond has no wealth of its own. Man's mind can become a well or a pond, these are the only two possibilities of how man's mind can be. And a person whose mind becomes a pond, slowly becomes mad. The minds of all of us have become a pond. We have not created a well, we have created a pond. We collect things from all over the world, from books, from scriptures, from teachings, we collect all of them and think that we have become learned. We have made the same mistake as the pond. The pond thought that it was a well. The illusion can be created because water is seen in both of them. You can find knowledge in a pundit, a teacher, and in a conscious person, but a pundit is a pond and a conscious person is a well. There is a difference between the two. You cannot imagine how basic and how deep this difference is. The knowledge of a pundit is borrowed and stale and rotten. Whatever troubles have arisen in the world are because of the pundit's knowledge. Whose fight is the inner journey? 61 Osho. Chapter 5. Freedom from the illusion of knowledge. The fight between Hindus and Mohammedans. It is the fight of scholars. The opposition between a Jaina and a Hindu is the opposition between scholars. It is an opposition of pundits, it is an opposition of minds which are rotten, borrowed and stale. All the troubles that have happened all over the world are because of minds which have become ponds. Otherwise there are just people in the world. Nobody is a Christian, a Hindu, a Mohammedan, a Jaina. These are just the labels of the ponds. The pond puts a label on itself, a label of the well from which it has drawn its water. Someone has drawn water from the Gita, so he is a Hindu. Someone has drawn water from the Quran, so he is a Mohammedan. A conscious person does not take water from others. The water comes from within him, it comes from existence, so he can be neither a Hindu nor a Mohammedan nor a Christian. A conscious person cannot belong to any sect, but a pundit cannot be without a sect. Whenever there is a pundit, he will belong to a sect. We have made our mind a stale, borrowed thing and then we cling to it. As I said, a pond shouts, "Do not take away my water. If the water is gone, then I will become empty, there will be nothing left inside me. My wealth is borrowed, so nobody should take it away." Remember, the wealth which becomes less by being taken away is always borrowed and false. The wealth which grows by being taken away is true. The wealth which is depleted by sharing is not a wealth at all, it is only an accumulation. Only a wealth which grows more by sharing is really wealth. The quality of wealth is that it should grow by sharing. If it becomes less by sharing, then it is not wealth. And someone who is afraid that their wealth will disappear through sharing must take great care of their wealth. So all borrowed wealth is a trouble. Because it is never real, fear arises that it will disappear, so we cling to it more tightly. We cling tightly to our thoughts. We care for them more than for our lives. All this garbage which has accumulated in our minds did not get there just by chance. We have arranged it, we have collected it, and we are taking care of it. So if we think that knowledge arises with the accumulation of thoughts, then we will never be able to become free from them. How will we be able to become free? It will be like giving water to the roots and then cutting the leaves. It cannot happen. So the first basic thing that has to be understood is that knowledge and a collection of thoughts are two different things. Thoughts acquired or borrowed from others is not knowledge. Thoughts taken from other sources do not lead a man to truth or to himself. This knowledge is false, it is pseudo-knowledge. It creates an illusion that we have attained knowledge, but in reality nothing is known. We remain ignorant. This situation is the same as somebody reading many books about swimming and learning so much about it that if he has to give a discourse on swimming or write a book about it, he can, but if somebody pushes him into a river, it becomes obvious that he can't swim. He had read and studied all about it, he knew all the theory, but in practice he could not swim. There was a Mohammedan fakir called Nasruddin. Once he was crossing a river, sitting in a boat. He and the boatman talked on the way. Nasruddin was considered to be a very knowledgeable person. If knowledgeable people get a chance to prove somebody ignorant, they don't miss it. Nasruddin asked the boatman, "Do you know how to read?" The Inner Journey 62 Osho. Chapter 5. Freedom from the illusion of knowledge. The boatman said, "No, I know how to speak. I don't know anything about reading and writing." Nasruddin said, "1/4 of your life has been lost in futility, because if you don't know how to read, how can you attain any knowledge in your life? Idiot! Can anybody attain knowledge without being able to read?" But the boatman started laughing silently. Then they went a little further and Nasruddin asked, "Do you know anything about mathematics?" The boatman said, "No, I don't know anything about mathematics at all, I just count on my fingers." Nasruddin said, "Another 1/4 of your life has been lost in futility, because one who does not know about mathematics, one who cannot calculate, cannot earn anything in his life. How can he earn? One should know how to count, then one can earn something. What will you earn? Half of your life has been futile." Then a storm, a hurricane arose, and the boat turned over and sank. The boatman asked, "Can you swim?" Nasruddin cried, "No, I can't swim." The boatman shouted, "Your whole life is wasted. I am going. I don't know how to do mathematics, nor how to read a language, but I do know how to swim. So I am leaving you. Your whole life has gone to waste." In life there are some truths which can be known only by the self, they cannot be known through books or through scriptures. The truth of the soul or the truth of the universe can only be known by the self, there is no other way. These things are written in the scriptures, we can read them, we can understand them, we can memorize them, we can learn them. We can tell others about them, but no knowledge has been attained. The accumulation of facts and other people's opinions is not a sign of knowledge, it is only a sign of ignorance. A person who is conscious and awake is free of all this knowledge. There is no question of him collecting any more facts, he knows himself. With that self-knowledge the mind is not a disturbed hive of honeybees, it is a mirror, a lake. Our mind is a buzzing hive of thoughts which we have been breeding because we think they are knowledge. We have given them space in our house, we have made them residents. We have made our mind a caravanserai, whoever comes can stay there as long as he is wearing the clothes of knowledge, then he has the right to stay. And the crowd in the caravanserai has increased and grown so much that it has become difficult to decide who is the master in this crowd. Those who are the guests make such a noise that the one who shouts the most becomes the master. And we don't know who the real master is. Each thought shouts loudly that it is the master, so in this crowded caravanserai it has become impossible to know the real master. The Inner Journey 63 Osho. Chapter 5. Freedom from the illusion of knowledge. No thought wants to leave. How can someone whom we have invited to stay, get out? It is easy to invite a guest, but it is not so easy to get rid of him. For thousands of years the guests have been gathering in man's mind, and if I ask you to say goodbye to them today, you cannot get rid of them immediately. But if we understand the nature of our illusions, then it is possible to get rid of them. We cherish these thoughts because of our illusion that they are knowledge, so the first thing to understand is that all the thoughts learned from others are futile. If this becomes clear to us, then we have cut the very root of our collection of thoughts and ideas, we have stopped giving water to the roots. An old sage was passing through a jungle with one of his young monks. The night descended and it started becoming dark. The old sage asked the young monk, "Son, do you think there is any danger along this path? This is a path through a dense forest and it is becoming dark. Is there anything to be afraid of?" The young monk was very surprised because the question of being afraid should not arise in a sannyasin. Whether the night is dark or bright, whether it is a forest or a market, for a sannyasin to feel fear is very surprising. And this old man had never been afraid. What had happened today? Why was he afraid? Something or other was wrong. Then they went a little further and the night became darker. The old man asked again, "Is there anything to worry about? Will we reach the other town soon?" How far is it? Then they stopped near a well to wash their hands and faces. The old man gave the bag on his shoulder to the young monk and said, "Take care of it." The young man thought, certainly there must be something in the bag, otherwise there would be no question of fear nor of taking care of it. If a sannyasin even takes care of something, it is strange. Then there is no meaning in becoming a sannyasin, because one who takes care of things is a family man. What does a sannyasin need to take care of? The old man started washing his face. The young man put his hand inside the bag and saw a golden brick in the bag. Then he understood the cause of the fear. He threw the brick away in the forest and placed a stone of the same weight inside the bag. The old man came quickly after washing his face, quickly took the bag, touched it, felt the weight, placed his bag on his shoulder and started walking again. Then after walking for a little while, he said, "It is becoming very dark, have we forgotten the way? Is there any danger?" The young man said, "Don't be afraid. I have thrown away the fear." The old sage was shocked. He immediately looked into the bag and saw that, instead of the gold, there was a stone inside. For a moment he stood there stunned, then he started laughing and said, "I was an idiot. I have been carrying a stone, yet I was afraid because I thought it was a golden brick." When he realized that he had been carrying a stone, he threw it away and said to the young monk, "Tonight we will sleep here, because it is difficult to find the way in the dark." That night they slept in the forest peacefully. The Inner Journey 64 Osho. Chapter 5. Freedom from the illusion of knowledge. If you think your thoughts and ideas are bricks of gold, you will take good care of them and remain very attached to them. But I want to say to you that they are not golden bricks, they are just heavy stones. What you think to be knowledge is not knowledge at all, it is not gold, it is absolutely a stone. The knowledge obtained from others is just a stone. Only the knowledge that comes from within you is gold. The day you see that you are carrying a stone in your bag is the day the matter is over. Then there will be no difficulty in throwing away the stone. There is no difficulty in throwing away garbage, but there is difficulty in throwing away gold. As long as you feel that your thoughts are knowledge, you cannot throw them away, and your mind will remain troubled. You may try thousands of ways to calm it, but nothing will work, because deep down you want the thoughts to remain because you think they are knowledge. The greatest difficulties in life arise from the misunderstanding that we think something is which it is not. Then all kinds of troubles arise. If somebody thinks that a stone is a brick of gold, then problems start. If somebody realizes that a stone is a stone, then the matter is over. So the treasure of our thoughts is not a real treasure, this fact has to be understood. How to understand this? Will you understand by my saying it is so? If you understand by me saying it, then this understanding will be a borrowed one, it will be futile. There is no question of your understanding something because I say it, you have to see, search and recognize for yourself. If the young monk had said to the old man, "Keep walking. There is no need to worry. There is a stone in your bag, not gold." Still it would not have made any difference to the old man until he saw with his own eyes that this was the case. If the young man had simply told him, he would not have believed it. He would have just laughed at the young man and thought that he was just a boy, he was ignorant, he did not know anything. Or he could have believed him and accepted his words, but his acceptance would have been false, deep inside he would have still held on to the idea of keeping the gold brick safe. But seeing it for himself made the difference. So it is necessary to look into the bag of your mind and see if what we think is knowledge, is really knowledge, or have we just collected garbage? We have collected the sutras of the Gita, the statements of the Vedas, the words of Mahavir and Buddha, and we are continuously remembering them, thinking about them and finding meanings in them. We keep on reading and writing commentaries on them and discussing them with each other. Absolute madness has been created. Knowledge has no relation to this madness. No flame, no light will arise in your lives from this. And by collecting this garbage, you will create the illusion that you have attained a great wealth of knowledge, that you are a great master, that you have so much, your vault is full, and you will live your life like this and destroy it. A young monk was staying in a monastery. He had come to sit in the presence of an old sage, but within a few days he felt that the old man did not know anything at all. Listening to the same things every day, he got fed up. He thought that he should leave this monastery and search somewhere else for another master. This was not the place for him. But on the day he was to leave, another monk visited the monastery. That night the inmates of the monastery gathered and they talked about many things. The new monk was very knowledgeable. The Inner Journey 65 Osho. Chapter 5. Freedom from the illusion of knowledge about so many things, very subtle and perceptive, very deep and very intense, and the young monk thought that this was how a master should be. Within 2 hours the new monk had mesmerized everyone. The young monk thought that the old master must be feeling a lot of pain and very depressed that he was so old and yet had not learned anything, while this newcomer knew so much. After 2 hours, when the talks were over, the guest monk looked at the old master and asked, "How did you like my talks?" The old man said, "My talks? You were talking, but none of it was your own. I was listening very intently for you to say something, but you did not say anything at all." The guest monk replied, "If it was not me talking, then who has been talking for the past 2 hours?" The old man said, "If you ask for my truthful and authentic opinion, then books and scriptures were talking from inside you, but you were not talking at all. You did not even say a single word. You were throwing out, vomiting out, whatever you have gathered. And because of your vomiting I became afraid that you are a very sick person. For 2 hours you went on vomiting whatever was collected in your stomach, and you filled the whole room with dirt and stink. I did not smell even a little fragrance of knowledge, because anything which is taken in from the outside and again thrown out is certain to have the stink of vomiting. You did not say anything yourself, not a single word was your own." After listening to the old sage, the young monk who had wanted to leave the monastery decided to stay. That day, for the first time, he came to know that there are different kinds of knowing. One kind of knowing is that which we collect from outside, and another kind of knowing is that which arises from within. Whatever we collect from the outside becomes a bondage, it does not liberate us, we are liberated by that which comes from the inside. So the first thing to look at inside is, do you really know whatever you know? It is necessary to question each thought and each word which you know, do you really know it? And if the answer is, I do not know it, then all the golden bricks in your life will slowly turn into stones. It is possible to deceive everybody in the world, but it is not possible to deceive yourself. No man can deceive himself. Whatever you do not know, you do not know. If I ask you, do you know truth, and if you nod your head and say, yes I do, then you are unauthentic. Ask yourself inside, do I know truth, or have I just accepted the things which I have heard? And if I do not know, then this truth is not worth a single penny. How can something I do not know change my life? Only the truth I know can become a revolution in my life. The truth that I do not know is not worth a penny. This truth is false, this is not a truth at all, it is all borrowed, and it is not going to change anything in my life.